Kia ora talofa namaste, haere mai and welcome to the Nichecache. This is our Christmas podcast, recording this on Wednesday the 24th instead of Tuesday. We are here to mainly discuss lots of cricket and football from the glorious lands of Aotearoa. We are obviously in the festive period, so we might have a newsletter via Substack, thenichecache.substack.com, like a half newsletter this Friday, Boxing Day. We'll have a newsletter next Monday. We won't be doing any podcasts though next week, but there might be some space for a little bit of Super Smash, audio and visual reporting from the greatest T20 competition in the world. We'll see how that goes over the next couple of days. And of course, we do have a steady flow of rugby league videos on YouTube, most recent of which was about some key indicators of the talent coming out of the South Island and why the South Island continues to shine as a fantastic development area of Aotearoa Rugby League. So there will be a rugby league video every week on YouTube. We'll see how we go with the Super Smash and the cricket stuff as well. But obviously it's the Christmas period, so you hope you're doing your best to be your best and keep showing up like the Blackcaps, even though you're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with adversity, you keep showing up, you keep winning. But I was interested before we started recording, you were intrigued about Setu 2 at the Dragons. So I do find that interesting, a little bit of rugby league to start us off here, not too much, but a little bit, because you were talking about how Shane Flanagan's talking up Setu 2 as a Dragons winger. And then I kind of realized a couple of things. So I realized that, well, the Penrith Panthers and some of the Penrith journalists, they've also been talking up Keilani going, Tom Ale and Toby Crosby as fantastic summer trainers at the Penrith Panthers, and you should expect them to get NRL game time, which is, like, I don't know, like, it is kind of funny that, like, everyone is talking up their Warriors signing. I do find that funny, but again, going back to the video I did on YouTube most recently, these are indicators of the talent, right? Like when players from the South Island like Antonio Verhoeven leave the South Island and make the Australian schoolboys team in their first year in Australia, and there's also Torino Jackson who makes the Queensland under-18 team in his second year coming out of Dunedin, and there's also Bishop Neal who won the under-17 championship, finals MVP, and then got a training trial contract at the end of 2025 coming out of Christchurch, where you've got Tanner Stella-Smith, Jason Salalilo, Makaya Tafua playing heaps of New South Wales Cup footy as under-21s. All these things are the indicators that I'm learning about that inform us about the quality of rugby league players coming out of the South Island and what we should expect from them. I mean, another one, Jordan Ricky leaves Christchurch, and he is a New Zealand Kiwis international NRL champion with an absolute crack-a-ton of NRL games already at 25 years old or something coming out of the South Island. Griffin Neame, whole lot of NRL games, New Zealand Kiwis international coming out of the South Island by the age of 25 or whatever. Again, key indicators of talent. Key indicators of Warriors talent, well, everyone's talking up their Warriors signing. Right, like these inform us about how the Warriors system is producing players, developing players, and providing players for other NRL teams. Although I do want to maybe just give you and the Dragons fans something to ponder, because I haven't actually heard the Edward Cossey hype at the Rabbitohs. I haven't been deep into the Rabbitohs fandom, but haven't heard that. Haven't heard the Moala Graham Taufa hype either. But for everyone who is thinking about Setu 2 as a Dragons fan and what he's capable of for the NRL team, I did just have a moment of realization that Setutu was always stuck behind Edward Kossi at the Warriors. And it was for quite a while because those two were part of the Warriors system going back pre-pandemic era. So maybe Setutu is out of Edward Kossi's shadow and he's just like, this is my time to shine. I'm the big dog here at the Dragons. Maybe even I'm better than my Otahuhu brethren, Christian Tuipulotu. But it's something else that some of the Dragon stuff as well. Like Tom Alley was an NRL forward, and then Tanastawa Smith, Irioromia Toiava, Jacob Laban, like the whole young wave came, and then Tom Alley wasn't an NRL forward. Keilani Going, I love Keilani Going. He was never ranked ahead of any of the young forwards based on how Andrew Webster selected his teams. So again, these are indicators of the talent that the Warriors still have at in their system. And it is interesting that these players have been talked up by the respective communities. But from a Warriors perspective, like Edward Kossi was always ranked ahead of Setutu. So maybe if Setutu becomes a certified NRL winger consistently every single week, maybe he proves that he's better than Edward Kossi, but based on their time at the Warriors, Edward Kossi was always ranked ahead of Setutu. So I'm surprised that Shane Flanagan didn't actually sign Edward Kossi.
Well, maybe if Ed Kossi's not getting talked up at the Rabbitohs in the same way that everyone else seems to be getting this sort of post-Warriors bump, which I guess also it's a sign of the talent. It must also be a sign of the work ethic and the sort of, the attitude of these players as well to some extent, because this is early-ish preseason stuff we're talking about, players turning up sort of with a point to prove and training the house down type stuff. That must also be a tick in the Warriors sort of organization favor as well. But maybe if Ed Kossi is struggling to make that same impact at the Rabbitohs early doors, maybe that's just because he doesn't have Setutu there to push him. Maybe that was the secret to all his success relatively, because you say Kossi was always ahead of two, but also like Kossi was never a first choice first grader at any point either. Like there were also wingers ahead of both of them the entire time, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't. Maybe Kossi just needed that. He's lost the Robin to his Batman.
Neither of them are better than Sio Kelly. So congratulations to everyone who's signed a Warriors player this summer. I think the Warriors are pretty happy with the players they do have, and none of those, how should I say this? I view younger players as better than all the players who left the Warriors, is a good summary. And the indicators of Blackcaps talent and Blackcaps depth and Blackcaps good spots, good posies are also there. Test series win over the West Indies, and I do get the sense, because I think a lot of people just want to poke holes in anything that any cricket team does. Like, if you're not doing it against the cricket cartel, it doesn't matter. Well, one cricket cartel nation actually sucks. They aren't a top 4 World Test Championship team, unlike Blackcaps 3 out of the 4 years. They are terrible at ODI cricket. Like, the Blackcaps just smoked them in an ODI series, and they are in the mix for not qualifying or not getting automatic qualification to the ODI World Cup because they're so shit at ODI cricket, and they always have a review every couple of years. Like, they have these big debriefs. So let's chill on all 3 cricket cartel nations being awesome, because one of them's awesome. The other one has incredibly favorable situations because they win tournaments either in their home nation or Champions Trophy this year. They didn't actually have to leave one city. So one cricket cartel nation is genuinely awesome, and I admire that one nation. Another nation win in incredibly favorable situations, and now they're actually losing.
Except in Test series against the Blackcaps at home.
Yes, or against South Africa,
Or against
South
South
Africa,
Africa.
because maybe they're not actually that good at cricket. Hold that thought because we are going to visit them in a jiffy. And the other nation just sucks at cricket. So let's chill on putting the cricket cartel nations on a pedestal. And like the Black Caps can only do what they can do against who they are playing. And if this was a full strength Black Caps test group, I would have, like, say they won 2-0, I'll be like, okay, cool. Tick the boxes, keep it moving. You got to win what you got to win, especially in the World Test Championship. These series are very important because if you're a big Donny in the World Test Championship, as New Zealand is, because we've won it, unlike two of the cricket cartel nations, and we are top 4 in the World Test Championship 3 out of the 4 campaigns, you need to handle your business against the weaker nations, especially in home conditions. But the thing is, this was not a full strength Black Caps group. As we've talked a lot about, Michael Ray, he's our 11th seamer. Right? Like Ajaz Patel, fantastic spin bowler. Well, our best spinner wasn't playing. Our best seamer wasn't playing. Matt Henry and Mitchell Santner are the 2 best bowlers for New Zealand in Test cricket since the start of 2024. The only full strength team about this Black Caps group was the top 5. And we'll get into some of that stuff in a jiffy, but the way the Black Caps won this 3rd test, especially because we've talked about the first 2 tests a lot in recent weeks, the way they won this Bay Oval test I thought was fantastic. Because we got Jacob Duffy, he's just now a certified legend. He's got the lowest bowling average for all New Zealand test bowlers who have taken 20 plus wickets. Ajaz Patel doing his job. He doesn't play every test. He barely plays consecutive tests. But when he's called upon, he does his job. He's a reliable test spinner who's not really... To be honest, he's not in my first 11. Because we can go Glenn Phillips as our spinning all-rounder and or Mitchell Santner. Like, we can select both of them before we get to Ajaz Patel. But then if we're super spinny, then we get Ajaz Patel in the team. As I've always said, suddenly Michael Ray's just an international bowler now. Wasn't thinking that would be the case 4 weeks ago. Somehow the Black Caps still got the job done, and they got the job done in rather convincing fashion, and I think that is a massive boost for where the Black Caps are at to start the Rob Walter coaching era. I mean, another one, 17 different players were used in this test series. 17. That's almost 1.5 teams of test cricketers were used for New Zealand in 3 tests. And they won that test series 2-0. 11 bowlers took a wicket. The only bowler who didn't take a wicket was Nathan Smith. And we've got legendary seamers. We got 11th best seamer. We've got Blair Tickner, 10th best seamer, returning from injury, returning to the Black Caps only to get injured. We've got frontline spinners. We got all-round spinners. We got a seaming all-rounder in Daryl Mitchell. 11 bowlers took a wicket. The injuries, the depth being challenged, and the comprehensive margins of victory, to me, comes together to balance out any, just anxiety about, oh, it's only the West Indies that I might have had in my own mind. It's like, well, the West Indies, they put up a fight. They're test cricketers themselves. But the injuries and the wide range of players that were used and the contributions from everyone in the test squad, to me, makes this a fantastic result and a fantastic start to the World Test Championship for Rob Walter, Tom Latham as captain, and this wider group. Like, it's not just a group. When you're dealing with 17 players and you're dealing with, I think we had 20, maybe 20, 21 or 24 players who played Test cricket for New Zealand this year. I want to get this exact, because if we got more than 21, so almost 2 teams of cricketers played Test cricket for New Zealand this year. This is depth that we have never seen before. And there's a few other unseen things, like the Type 5 batting unit that is full strength. They're all averaging 40-ish in Test cricket. Conway, Latham, Williamson, Ravindra, Mitchell, all averaging around 40 in Test cricket. Obviously, Williamson's up around 50. We've never seen that before. Aside from when it was Conway, Latham, Williamson, Taylor, and then maybe Mitchell.
Taylor Nichols.
Oh yeah, the big dog, Henry Nichols, one of the greatest Test batters ever, because he does have 10 Test centuries. A couple of those dudes move on. Okay, well, Rachin Ravindra just comes in, like we've seen this time and time again for the Blackcaps in recent years, where the players who step into the group are really, really good cricketers. And another funky thing to tell that story is Duffy, Will O'Rourke, Kyle Jamieson, and Matt Henry all have lower Test bowling averages than Trent Boult, Neil Wagner, and Tim Southee. Let alone the fact that the only dude who was almost as bad as Tim Southee in Test cricket since the start of 2024 was, one guess for you?
Since the start of 2024...
It's pretty obvious.
What, Devon Conway? Tom Blundell?
Seamers.
We're talking...
Bowling averages. Devon Conway doesn't bowl.
Devon Conway doesn't bowl seam, but I'm sure he could if he tried. Who was struggling to take wickets for the seam? It seems like everyone was.
Well, it was probably a Tim Southee selection.
Tim Southee himself? No, you said that. That was the comparison. I don't know. You put me under a misery.
Scott Kugelheim. He averaged 66.5.
Well, he wasn't going to pop to my head straight away when we've gone through like Michael Ray era now. The times have changed.
So since the start of 2024, Tim Southee, he averaged 59.11.
Yeah.
Kugelheim averaged 66.5. Neil Wagner played 1 test. He averaged 37. Every other seam is below that. So all the other guys, aside from Southee, Kugelheim, and Wagner, have been better than them. Kugelheim only played 2 tests. Wagner only played 1 test, so let's excuse them. Southee, 11 tests, 17 wickets at 59.
Mostly as captain as well.
Henry's averaging 16.3. O'Rourke's averaging 24.2. Duffy's averaging 16.2. Falk's 28.3. Nathan Smith 39.8. That's at the higher end of this mixer, still much lower than Tim Southee. Michael Ray 28.2. Kyle Jamieson 15.5. Ben Sears 32.2. Tickner 1 test 8. Fisher 1 test 19. All these dudes have been better, much better than Tim Southee. So that kind of informs me what a shambles the end of the Tim Southee captaincy era was, because it was kind of just the Tim Southee party. But it also, there's still this idea that the Blackcaps were only good because of some previous generation cricketers. I say it every time. We just went to the Champions Trophy final without Tim Southee or Trent Boult. We went to India and won a test series in India without Kane Williamson. Now we've got 11 seamers in Test cricket, and they've all done better than Tim Southee in his last year of Test bowling. And we just won a Test series with 3 batters scoring more runs than Kane Williamson, who's only scored 150 in this Test series. So I mean, forgive me for being positive about the Blackcaps, because it seems a lot of people just seem to be get their knickers in a twist about the Blackcaps and who they are and what they're doing. But like, is there a better example than Jacob Duffy just coming into this group and being an absolute New Zealand cricket legend? Summarized by the well-publicized nugget that he is the most wickets in a calendar year for any New Zealand bowler. Not only does he have a higher or lower Test average than Sir Richard Hadlee right now, he overtook Sir Richard Hadlee for the most wickets in a calendar year. That's only possible because Jacob Duffy has been elite in all 3 formats. And, I mean, what have we talked about Matt Henry for the last few months? He is now elite in all 3 formats. I don't know. I could go on, but I've already rambled too much here. So, what tickles your antenna from what I just said, or any other ideas to big picture ideas for this Test series, and this Test series win? A comprehensive Test series win using 17 different players, uncovering fresh talent, and just like Kiwi fundamentals just being put in the international cricketing spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue with any of that stuff, right? It's just was seen, even the Test match that they didn't win in this series, it was like, well, that took freak circumstances of incredible last day batting effort from West Indies, but also like an absolutely depleted Blackcaps bowling lineup, which is what caused them to, like, on top of the bowlers who were already injured coming into the series, but this is what caused them to then go like, all right, Michael Ray, here's your opportunity. All right, Jacob Duffy, there's no Matt Henry for the rest of the series, so you are the main man here, having played like 2 Test matches. I think 2 Test matches at that point. I think he debuted in Zimbabwe and then came over, then had this series. Like, that's crazy stuff. That's not normal stuff. You're not supposed to be able to be like, okay, here's your because what's a frontline Blackcaps seam bowling unit? Like, who would be your 4 top seamers? Matt Henry is there automatically. Jacob Duffy's probably there now, but don't know that he would have been necessarily like before the series. I don't know.
Just type. We got the type 5, and because New Zealand is a top 4 cricketing nation in the world, we're going top 4 seam bowlers. No, just pure seam bowlers. I'm going Matt Henry, Jacob Duffy, Will O'Rourke, Kyle Jamieson. That's crazy.
I think that's what I go with too. Yeah.
That's a phenomenal bowling attack.
That's unreal. You might, I actually, no, I was going to say, like, if you were putting an actual team together and thinking about more than just the bowling aspects, you might want like an extra all-rounder in there. But then I'm thinking, well, I don't know that you do, because you just pick Mitchell Santner as your spinner. He bats at 7. Kyle Jamieson is a pretty good number 8. Matt Henry is a pretty good number 9. Will O'Rourke is a pretty good number 11. You know, there's no stress there. Even Jacob Duffy, like, he had he's been the designated night watchman twice already in his career, so he's clearly pretty handy. Will O'Rourke has done night watchman duties, I'm pretty sure too. So none of them are bad batters for the positions that they bat in. They're all actually good batters for the positions that they bat in.
Another Kiwi cricket fundamental, Matt Henry was the only bowler who did not score 10 runs in an innings of this Test series. Michael Ray hit 13 runs at a strike rate of 118. Ajaz Patel batted once. He got 30 not out, strike rate of 100. As you said, Duffy, really good series with the bat, 42 runs overall, highest score of 17. Folks kind of struggled at the Bay Oval. That's all good. He's tired. He's a youngster. highest score of 23 not out. Like the bowlers just always chipped in with runs. And as we see around the world in Test cricket, that is quite useful.
Yeah, Zach Fox is starting to do that a lot over the last couple of months. Like he's had a lot of little, no big scores with the bat, but he's had a lot of like sort of 10 to 20 something kind of range scores where most of them are also not outs. And that's good for the average, but it's also like, they're not dismissing him. He's getting in, he's having a little, he's chipping away, he's batting in a partnership with someone else. Those are like that's a handy trait to have.
Zach Fox, highest Test score 23 not out. Zach Fox, highest ODI score 22 not out. Zach Fox, highest T20 international score 27 not out. He's also got a T20 strike rate of 139.5. He hasn't been dismissed in ODIs. He's got a Test batting average of 19.5, and as I said, good T20 strike rate with an average of 15.
Yeah, for the role that he's been asked to play, that's fantastic. Like those are great runs down the order, especially because he's not getting out cheaply, hardly ever. Yeah, you can put a partnership together with a guy like that. That's useful stuff. Although, yeah, you're right. He did look pretty exhausted by the third test. Like I'm almost a little bit surprised they didn't rest him for the test match in the first place. We did talk about that coming into that, about the possibility of maybe Christian Clark could have a test match. You could maybe give Folksy a rest after a massive workload, because the difference between him and Jacob Duffy is that Duffy has like more than 10 years of first class experience and more I think they both played a little bit over in England, but Duffy a bit more so in terms of around just like more experiences. Yeah. And is just better suited, therefore, to be able to go through that grind. Like he's probably done it before in various situations of his career. You play long enough, you experience more of these just different scenarios that you find yourself in. Folks is much younger, and just it was a lot to ask from him. But yeah, can't fault the shift that he put in, and also even after a slow one in that last test and probably a slowish one in the second test as well, he's still averaging under 30 in test match cricket. So that's all right. If you just had a bad spot in your like just a bad game in terms of wicket taking, and your average that early in your career didn't balloon out, like you've obviously got a platform to build off of there. So that's all nice stuff too. I was wondering like if the amount of did Kyle Jamieson play a test match this year? He didn't, eh?
No, I don't think so.
Because I think he's been injured up until that was his comeback in the limited overs series, and then they held him out for this test series to build him up a bit more. So I mean, if he's your 22nd player, you can just pick you can pick a first 11 and a second 11 of players who are like not even potential test players, but like actual test players who are in contention for games. But then I thought like you could do that, but there's a lot of it's a bit bowler heavy rather than batter heavy. So your second 11, your top order would be looking a little bit funky when you got like Mitch Hay opening with Zach Fox or something. I don't know, but it's still like there's a lot of test cricketers. There's a lot of test cricketers who came in and put up good test cricket performances. And admittedly, like, yeah, we played a touring West Indian team and a Zimbabwean team before that. It's not the toughest challenge that they will face. Maybe it'll be on par with when they go to England later on, in a few months next year. Similar level of opponent. But I don't know. I think most people would say that West Indian team played in all three formats as well. Played a lot better than people expected, certainly in the test matches. And I don't know. I don't think you can take for granted the idea that the Blackcaps were always going to win that with the not so much the players that they picked, but like where on the depth chart they were picking those players from. Even though the results we saw were very typical of the type of results that you would expect the Blackcaps to get, it's like they didn't do that with their best players the whole way through. The guys who scored their top runs, like Conway and Latham, were not in good form coming into the series. There was no reason to expect they could do what they did there. It's not like Kane Williamson and Ravinja just scoring blazing centuries every time. So if that happens, it's like, yeah, okay, your best, flashiest batters are cashing in. But Latham and Conway weren't batting like that up until that point. Although I do think like there was a bit of chat about Conway finding his form in the series. I do think Conway had started to like, I think that happened on the Zimbabwe tour. Like, he got dropped from one of the series and then he got called up. I think it was the T20 series, and then he got called up anyway because someone else pulled out injured. It's like Glenn Phillips or someone like that. And I do feel like ever since that point, Conway has looked much better. It wasn't always, well, he didn't always look better at the start. He was just grinding out runs while he's grinding out ugly runs, but now he's getting the beautiful runs as well. He's getting that cover drive going. I think that's an important thing, is like he cashed in spectacularly in this last test with a double 100 and 100 in the same match. But it didn't happen out of the blue. Like, we saw this 6-month kind of ramp up from him regaining his form and starting to look like the old Devon Conway again, which, yeah, like the old Devon Conway we saw a lot less of, actually, by that point. We've seen less of the old Devon Conway, the world-class Devon Conway, than we had of the like international struggler Devon Conway. That guy had existed longer than the world-class one, but now it looks like we're hopefully back to the world-class one, because this wasn't just a one-off test series where he was amazing. He had shown the foundations for this for a while. And Tom Latham scoring centuries as captain as well. Just beautiful stuff, considering what we're talking about with Tim Southee.
Yeah, we'll get to Latham. We'll get to Latham. Devon Conway. He started of the summer. It was Devon Conway versus Will Young, ODIs and Tests. That's no longer a situation, because Will Young, he struggled all season. A lot of ODI cricket. Didn't score many runs. He's been all right for CD without being like disgustingly dominant, as a Glenn Phillips did in his couple of games, Plunket Shield games. So Devon Conway, based on runs alone, has brushed aside the challenge of Will Young. I do think Blackcaps Test batting group, so we've got that type 5. Henry Nicholls and Will Young are still the next best batters. But you do have Curtis Heafy, Bevan Jacobs, and Reece Mariu, who all have first-class batting averages that rival the Type 5 in first-class batting averages. So don't worry about the depth. Like, we're all good with the depth. But I still think Will Young and Henry Nicholls are the next best batters for Test cricket. But Devon Conway has brushed aside the challenge from Will Young, although I don't like. Devon Conway plays absolutely delectable shots sometimes. Devon Conway, the thing I wrote down for Devon Conway is he always just looks wobbly. So it's hard to say like, oh, Devon Conway looks out of form, because that's how I used to think a few weeks ago. Like when we're watching the T20s, when we're watching the ODIs, I'm looking at Devon Conway, I'm like, this dude looks out of form. But I think that's just how Devon Conway bats. When he plays a forward defense, he doesn't play a forward defense like a, what am I going to compare it to? Like, it's not like a brick wall where he gets the bat next to the pad and the ball just smashes into the middle of the bat. Devon Conway forward defense, he's dangling the bat and the bat always twists and turns as soon as the ball hits his bat. He's dangling his bat every which way, and the ball's edging. It's going this way. He's missing the ball. Devon Conway looks out of form, but maybe that's just Devon Conway. So maybe it's not how he looks when he's batting. It's just, is Devon Conway scoring runs? Because there is that thing when Devon Conway does score runs that it can look absolutely sublime. As you're saying, the square drive, the cover drive, and the shots that he plays when he gets going. But at the same time, his defensive strokes look wobbly. So we've got Devon Conway, he's scoring runs. His boundary shots look amazing. His defensive shots look wobbly. Who cares how he looks, is what I'm telling myself. The thing for Devon Conway is he scoring runs. And he's scoring runs right now, and he's scoring runs, but he still looked wobbly. And that's all right, because he's scoring runs. And that's what Devon Conway is here to do as an opening batter in the Test team. And again, if Devon Conway's scoring runs, that is an incredible type 5 that we are operating with in the Test mixer.
It's it's a good point about Conway, because I think that is it's weird because it's not like he does look wonky, he does look wobbly, and he does also play superb shots. It's like it's not one or the other. You get the rocks and the diamonds with him. But I think that is a valuable thing to keep in mind, of like, that is how he bats. When he's good, that's how he bats. When he's bad, you lose the diamonds and you just have the rocks. But there's sort of like the dangling the bat outside the line is just, he's just going to do that anyway. And when his eye is in, he's just got such good hand-eye coordination that he's still whipping those ones off his pads and slapping them through the covers or whatever. That's just that is the Devon Conway experience, and for better and for worse. But yeah, he wasn't the only one who scored bundles of runs in this series. There was also 300s out there from Tom Latham from 6 innings, which is beautiful stuff. Because I just double checked this to see, because Latham, up until this series, you might have said there was something along the lines of the same thing that we saw with Tim Southey, where it's like, I don't know if the captaincy is weighing very well on these guys' shoulders, where like their own personal performances just seem to plummet under that pressure. Tom Latham, since taken over as Test match captain prior to the series, 12 innings with only 250-plus scores, no hundreds, average of 26. That's not really good enough to be a Test match opener. Obviously, someone with the career of him, we know there's ups and downs along the way, but the fact that seemed to be happening as he took over as captain, and frankly was happening before he took over as captain as well. Like I think he'd gone a couple of years without a Test match century up until like the first Test where he got one in this series. That was a worrying trend. And then against the West Indies, he scored 300s in 6 innings. And now, including those previous 12 innings at 26, he's now averaging 41.27 since taking over as the permanent captain. That spans 9 matches. If you look at Tim Southey's last 9 matches as captain, 16 wickets, an average of 47.43. And that was getting worse as it was going along. So, it's nice to see that the burden of the captaincy has at least been shrugged off the shoulders of Tom Latham, because even if he struggles in the next couple of series, it's like, well, at least he's got some, at least we can say he's scored a few hundreds as the captain. At least he's done something to boost up that average and the runs that he's scored. So a relief to see that from him. And yeah, astonishing that Devon Conway, Tom Latham in that third Test match both scored hundreds in both innings, which is, apparently the first time that's ever happened in first-class cricket, even, that 2 openers have both tonned in each innings of a first-class match. It's the first time 2 separate New Zealanders in the same Test have both scored hundreds in a Test match, regardless of position. I think it's, what was it? I think it's only the 5th time in history that that's happened as well, where 2 teammates have done that in both innings. So, unreal stuff. Just incredible run scoring from the both of them to cash in the way that they did, and both of them needed it. That's the thing. It's not like they were in great form coming into the series. They both needed that sort of volume of runs, and they got it.
Tom Latham scored more centuries in this Test series than he did in the last 5 years combined.
Yeah, right. That.
So he scored 2 centuries in 2022. Before that, he had 2 years without a century. After that, he had 2 years without a century before hitting 3 against the West Indies. So that shows you all you need to know about Tom Latham and his form. And I think the most telling thing for Devon Conway, as you said, he was not in the initial T20 Tri-Series squad. I think it was when Finn Allen got injured that Devon Conway came in. Like-for-like replacement, given they are the kind of the wicketkeepers for the T20 team. But he wasn't in the first 11 for the Champions Trophy. So that's where Devon Conway's form was at. at the start of the year. And now he is where he is, doing very well alongside Tom Latham in the Test team. The best summary for the Blackcaps' year of cricket is they used 20-plus players in all three formats, and they had winning records in all three formats as well. So that's Blackcaps cricket. And they are now off to, well, first we get the Super Smash starting on Boxing Day, but the Blackcaps are also touring India for 3 T20s, 3 ODIs, 5 T20 internationals. Good opportunity to send the B squad over for a couple of ODIs. We got guys like Eddie Ashok, Christian Clark, Josh Clarkson, Nick Kelly, Kyle Jamison's back, Jaden Lennox, the CD spinner. Michael Ray gets an ODI opportunity. Definitely like the second tier, maybe even third tier ODI group. So I'll be curious to see what I'm going to call it the third tier ODI group can do in India. And then it is a bit sharper T20 squad that does seem to be building towards the T20 World Cup. And obviously we don't care about the dudes not playing for New Zealand because we're only interested in those who love Aotearoa. That starts early next year. I think it's the 11th of January or something. So that will be interesting to see what happens there. But who cares? We've got some Super Smash cricket coming up. But we've also had Plunkett Shield cricket wind down for the year. And there was also recently a North versus South T20 series. What I find interesting, given what we saw at the Bay Oval, spin situations, right? So Mitchell Santner wasn't playing. Ajaz Patel was playing. Glenn Phillips and Rachin Ravindra both took wickets in that Bay Oval Test. Great stuff from them. Limited roles, highly efficient, highly effective in doing their job. So you got 4 spinners right there. Then we get to the ODI squad. We got Eddie Ashok, Auckland leggy, and we got Jaden Lennox. As I said, CD lefty. Both have been part of New Zealand A cricket this year. I think they both played in Bangladesh and South Africa. So that's just pure Blackcaps development. What did I say? We had 4 spinners in the Test series against the West Indies. We got two more in the ODI squad. Sorry, Mitchell Santner didn't play, so I'm just naming 4. Then we go 2 more, Ashok and Jaden Lennox, so that's 6. I guess Michael Bracewell did play in the Test series, so he's a spin option. So then we go 7 spin options. T20 international squad. You got Santner, you got Bracewell, but then you got also Ish Sodhi, who's trying to get into that T20 World Cup squad. So we got 8 spin options. Who are the leading wicket takers in the Plunkett Shield? Do you know the answer?
I think I might. I'm going to say Rohit Gulati and Tim Pringle.
Bang on. Rohit Gulati, lefty spinner from Auckland. 22 wickets in the Plunkett Shield. Tim Pringle, Dutch international lefty spinner for ND. Second for wickets. Were you keeping track of the count there? Because I forgot. I think we got up to 8, and then we had 2 more.
10.
10.
It was 8 in the international squads, and then 10 adding in the Plunkett Shield.
That's the spin situation, right? So we've just seen because I do like the variety of conditions we're seeing around Aotearoa, and the Bay Oval epitomizes that. But you're like, who are the next spinners? Well, Eddie Ashok and Jaden Lennox are in the ODI squad, but the 2 best spinners in Plunkett Shield right now are Gulati and Pringle. I mean, how much more depth chat do we need to have here? People don't seem to be believing in the Blackcaps' depth, whereas all the evidence tells us that the depth is crazy. Because again, I'm not worried about Tom Blundell. That's up to him, what he does with his Test batting. I don't have any emotional connection to Tom Blundell. If he doesn't score runs, Mitch Hay's going to score runs. And if Mitch Hay doesn't score runs, Max Chew's going to score runs. If those dudes suck, we got Cam Fletcher, we got Dane Cleaver. If those guys suck, well, then we can look into Ben Pomare for ND. We can look at Aryan Mann, who's already played for ND, and he's in the under-19 squad. We've got 11 seamers that we've used around different formats. Like, what did I say about the 3 domestic batters? Curtis Heafy, Bevan Jacobs, Reece Mariu. they all have better or at least comparative first-class batting averages to, I don't know, Rachin Ravindra, Kane Williamson, Devon Conway, Tom Latham, and Daryl Mitchell. Crikey, Jack. So yes, Gulati and Pringle have been fantastic in the Plunkett Shield. Heafy's been fantastic as well. Reece Mariu hit a big century recently. Bevan Jacobs is just playing all formats for Auckland, doing a fantastic job. The best player in domestic cricket on the men's side is Henry Nicholls. Top 5 for runs in both competitions. Top 3, I think, actually. He is scoring centuries for fun with Canterbury. And I'd say Josh Clarkson, I think, is the second best domestic player in the men's side. And that's why he is in the Blackcaps ODI squad. He was overlooked for New Zealand conditions, right? So that's an interesting thing. Christian Clark was the dude who got called up to the England ODI squad when the Blackcaps absolutely destroyed England in that ODI series. So I was curious, like, how is Josh Clarkson viewed by his former Central Districts coach, Rob Walter, who's now Blackcaps coach? Well, he's in the ODI squad, so that's good for him. He has been the second best domestic player behind Henry Nicholls for me this season. A whole lot of domestic troopers. You got guys like Brad Schmullian, Nick Kelly in the ODI squad has had a fantastic season as well. A lot of those high quality domestic players who make the strength of domestic cricket in Aotearoa what it is. The best player for women's cricket in New Zealand so far in domestic cricket has been Jess Kerr. I think that is undeniable. But we also had that North-South series, and we got 3 youngsters here who I'm really interested in at the moment. Emma McLeod scoring a lot of runs. Zara Jetley bowling off spin, batting high up the order for Wellington, but not doing that for North versus South, but she is on the rise as well. And Prue Catton is scoring aggressive runs for Auckland, and I'm curious how that looks moving into the Super Smash for all these young cricketers. 2 deep cuts. I do love the look of Kaylee Knight for ND. She's a seamer who bowls a bit quicker than everyone else, gets plenty of zip, and has taken a lot of wickets. And then also shout out to her ND seam partner, Lucy Boucher, who's had a really solid season. But the other seamer I'm curious about is Louisa Kotkamp for Otago. She's been solid for Otago and took 3 wickets in one of the games for the North vs South series, and she's got a bit about her as well. Not quite as much juice as Kaylee Knight, but Louisa Kotkamp is someone to watch out for. So right there, like, you've got your best, because like Jess Kerr's the best women's domestic cricketer, and then you might have someone like Jess Watkin, maybe Nancy Patel for ND, have been fantastic. That's in the upper echelons of domestic cricket. But then you've got these, so you got 2 spinners on the men's side, Gulati and Pringle, emerging players, with the 3 young batters, Heafy, Jacobs, Mariu. And it's similar for the women's side. You got 3 really good young cricketers, Jetley, McLeod, and Catton. But then you got those 2 seamers, Kaylee Knight and Louisa Kotkamp. That's 5 cricketers, men and women, right there on the emerging side to go with Nicholls and Clarkson, Jess Kerr, and insert your second favourite women's cricketer from the summer. I think I like Jess Watkin the most, but Nancy Patel's been fantastic, and a bunch of other players have been really good as well. Now we move into Super Smash mode, and we will once again be following the greatest T20 competition in the world. That I seem to be alone in this, so I try to chill out, because what do I know? I don't see any reason to change the Super Smash. Because, as we will see right this summer, if you make a T20 competition at this time of the world, it will be ranked behind the BBL. It will be ranked behind SA20. So you're getting the 3rd, maybe 4th string T20 mercenaries to come to Aotearoa. Who cares? Why do we need random third, fourth string players coming to Aotearoa when there have been no issues with the Super Smash. All it does is produce very good international cricketers. Tim Robinson, Bevan Jacobs, Zach Folks, Will O'Rourke, all these dudes come through the Super Smash. And given how the emerging players are performing better than some of the legends that you love, why would we change the Super Smash? But that's just me. What do I know? I'm just watching these young players, these emerging players, do better than your favorite legend. That's it. But again, like, and aside from trying to play for the Blackcaps, Finn Allen isn't going to play NZ20. He's playing BBL. Tim Seifert isn't going to play NZ20. He's playing BBL. Kane Williamson's not going to play NZ20. He's playing SA20. Lockie Ferguson, he can do whatever he wants overseas. He's not playing NZ20. The money overseas will be more than the NZ20 fantasy. So what do we need to change? The Super Smash is a fantastic thing for what it is in the context of T20 competitions around the world at this time of year. If the schedule changed, that would be fantastic. But any T20 competition in New Zealand being played at this time of year will always be behind the other T20 competitions around the world at this time of year. We don't need to pretend anything. The Super Smash knows what it is. We know what the Super Smash is. And that is a festive T20 competition around Aotearoa that produces high quality international cricketers. We do not, just because other nations are doing something, we don't have to do that. That's something that I've heard, every other cricketing nation has a franchise T20 competition. Cool, good for them. Why do we need to copy everyone? I thought we were Kiwis. I thought we had a bit of wits about us, a bit of Kiwi ingenuity, doing things differently to other nations around the world. What, so we're just going to copy everyone? We're just going to get fourth string T20 mercenaries? Viva la Super Smash. And viva la Kiwis in the A-League. Because that was a fantastic weekend of A-League footy. Auckland, I think this is a good summary, I reckon. Like, all three teams played their best footy. Right? So, Wellington Phoenix men played their best footy. What did they have? 3-1? 3-1 win?
3-1 victory, that's it. 3-1 victory after 2 3-1 defeats.
Pretty comprehensive for the Wellington Phoenix men.
Yeah.
Wellington Phoenix women, 7-0. Like, what more do we need to say? That is the best Wellington Phoenix women's performance ever. Right?
Yeah. Biggest ever win by beating the previous biggest win was 5-0. So this is like, that beat it extensively. And also it was Sydney FC's biggest ever loss, which is also a reason to celebrate. And
Auckland FC had a 2-0 win. Which is
doing what they do, eh?
Exactly. That's the point. That is them playing to their best and just like dismantling the opposition. 2-0, easy win, go back to New Zealand, then go back to Australia. Like, Auckland FC are a very, very good football organisation. I don't know if I've ever seen them score 4 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals. 4 goals.
They definitely scored 4, because I think they had a 4-4 draw last year in that freaky game against Adelaide. I don't think they've gone beyond that.
So just on the ladder for this season, they've scored 14 goals. Sydney FC's second, 15 goals. Newcastle Jets in 6th have scored 16 goals.
Wait, sorry. They did beat Wellington Phoenix 6-1 last year.
Yeah,
so there was that one instance. Yeah. But that's their record win. How did I forget?
But my point is that Auckland FC, they can just cruise to 2-0 wins. That is who they are. That's what they do. And I think that is, like, it doesn't, in theory, Auckland FC playing to their best, hitting their ceiling, as they like to say. You know, you're thinking a 4-0, 5-0 win. But I don't really think that's how Auckland FC plays. They are there to shut down the opposition, dominate them, grind them down, score a couple of goals, and leave. And I just love that weekend of A-League footy. Next up, we have Auckland FC away to Sydney FC on the 27th. On the 29th, Wellington Phoenix away to Melbourne Victory. And on Tuesday, the 30th, Wellington Phoenix women are away to Western Sydney Wanderers. Let's start with Auckland FC. Sam Cosgrove, he's awesome.
I like the Jesse Randall finish that they got behind me on the video, with the lying on the ground, head in his hands, covering his face, deflection off his heel, credited with the goal. Makes up for the one that Cosgrove stole off him in the first derby, where he like tapped it in on the line where the ball was probably going in anyway. So I think they're even now after that one.
That was good for me. Like I am warming a little bit to Sam Cosgrove. I don't really think he's that good as being a striker. I think he is quite good at doing his job for Auckland FC under Steve Corica, and that's all you can ask. So shout out to Sam Cosgrove. He's twisting me around in the same way maybe Nadjarine is twisting you around in his favour. Wellington Phoenix, he was pretty good.
No, not really. Spoonley was going nuts about how great he was playing and how he's having this undercover fantastic season on the commentary. And it's like, he scored one goal and it was a penalty, which Mandrake James said after that last game, after he took the penalty, centre back taking the penalty. And then he said afterwards that he was like, he's the first choice penalty taker. He practices them all the time, but he let Nadjarine have one for confidence the other week. So the only goal that Nadjarine has got is because a centre back gave him the confidence booster, which, and he scored it. That was cool. He had a nice game in the latest one, but
he's Nadjarine. He's not Cosgrove. He's not there to score goals. And this is something we're going to weave between them, I reckon. We don't need to do them separately. But the Wellington Phoenix, they need more players like Nadjarine. And now they've got Paulo Retre, he's come back. But you need those players who are just solid A-League footballers. And I think that's what Auckland FC's done, right? Like they've got Brimmer, Verstrada, Lockie Brook, and all these other guys who are just doing their job for the team, Cosgrove included. And I think that's what Nadjarine's doing. I'm not just going to bring up goal scoring stats for midfielders, like he's contributing to the team and maybe he's helping Nagasawa look sublime in the midfield. But you need those
vice versa, but yeah.
That's true. But you need those dudes who are just experienced and can do their job, can execute what Chiefy wants them to do, as opposed to injecting all these youngsters who are going to be unreliable week to week. And I don't know, like he's just doing his job. So I don't mind Nadjarine, but going back to Cosgrove, I was glad that Randall got a little back heel on that goal because then it wasn't credited to Cosgrove. And it was like, oh, Cosgrove banged it into the net. But he didn't. It was Jesse Randall, back heel.
I actually think that's the correct call too, because there's an angle where they show it from the reverse shot where you can see the goal the whole time, and you can never quite tell because of the curl of the ball. Often you see replays where it's like the ball looks like it's going wide and it swerves back in, or it looks like it's going in and then it swerves past the post, which Marko Stamenic had one of those for Swansea City on the weekend. But I kind of think that looked like he was shooting off target. It's very hard to tell when it was it's a bit like there was an LBW that AJS Patel got on the weekend where it's like bounced on someone's toe and then they gave it out, which felt scandalous. Like it didn't change the result of the thing. I was watching that it took ages to do the DRS because apparently there's a different formula when the ball doesn't bounce. And apparently when the ball doesn't bounce, it's okay to assume that a left arm finger spinner turning the ball away from the bat, that ball's just going to go straight back in on the angle, which I don't think it would have, and I don't think that should have been given out. But nevertheless, it's hard to tell when there's only a little bit of trajectory to go by. But I thought that was fair enough to give it to Jesse Randall on the replay there. And I also thought, I don't know, it's a weird one for him to get, but he kind of he scored, I think, was it last
Yeah,
week as well? He needs a few goals. Like he
yeah, it's
just
the
boost
football
up those
gods.
numbers. It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
It's
he's
like when a
just
bowler, they don't take any wickets, and then they get a couple wickets at the end, and you can't say, oh, they're shit wickets, they're only tail enders. Well, he's worked hard all day, then you get a couple
tally
of
him up.
things fall in your favor. I've got no idea how you can assess. Like, you wrote this in the newsletter, you can't tell where Cosgrove was shooting. Like, you got no idea. You seem to have
It's
an idea.
guesswork, but yeah.
I have no idea. But Jesse Randall gets a goal. Cosgrove doesn't get a goal. Fantastic.
Cosgrove assists, though. I think we got to still give him that one. I do
Well, I
like your
don't think
point on
that's
Rami
official.
Nadjarine, though. I'm not sure actually.
And
It should be.
it is a back heel. So the legend will be
Yeah, right.
Jesse Randall scored a back heel laying face down on the turf.
With his eyes closed. The greatest finish of his life. But I do like your point on Nadjarine because I don't dislike him as a player. He's good to watch because he drops into pockets. He's pretty good at retaining the ball. Don't think he's outside of being like an enthusiastic presser. I don't think he's particularly effective at that. He's not like winning a lot of turnovers there. Um,
Yeah, it's not for Strata.
no, and that's like that's the complaint that I had last week. Is it's not like he's playing bad. It's just like I don't see what he does above and beyond the sort of like solid A-League veteran kind of. He's not really a veteran. He's 24 or something like that. Just that solid A-League starter kind of baseline. I don't really see him doing much on top of that. But if you are just looking at that, I can see how that is enticing. And certainly, I think to your point, what you're saying about like just having guys like that in your team is pretty valuable. But I think it's more valuable if you have a star player or two around them, like Auckland FC do, like Lockie Brook has become, for example. I thought Lockie Brook in the first couple of months was the same thing as I'm saying about Nadjarine. It's like you look nice, you got a great touch, you link up, but are they leading to chances? Are you creating moments? Are you scoring goals? Are you getting shots on target even? Like I don't really see any of that happening. Then he moves into the center of into that central attack and midfield role and he goes nuts and he's been incredible for like I think it's 3 games in a row now where he's arguably been Auckland FC's best player, give or take a little bit of Louis Verstrada, because I think he had another fantastic game on the weekend against Western Sydney. And I think he has been so good for them this season. But yeah, Lockie Brook in the last month has been, she's doing incredible things. It's a pity too, because you mentioned the game against Sydney on the weekend, but they actually postponed that yesterday for some reason. Well, not for some reason. It's they
Sydney.
were going to play it at Leichhardt Oval, like something like that, and the pitch was terrible. So they've canned it. So that they'll reschedule at some point, but that would have been on the 27th. That would have been Sydney FC versus Auckland FC, top of the table clash, first versus second, day after Boxing Day, whatever that day is called. I don't think it gets a name.
One out.
And it's Steve Corica. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And it's Steve Corica against his old team, and a couple of Jake Gerwood Rice, an ex-Sydney player as well, playing for Auckland. It just would have been it was a game I was very excited for. But apparently Australians can't look after their football pitches nearly as well as New Zealanders do. So we'll park that one slightly. Maybe they'll just reschedule it somewhere else a day or two later or something. I don't know. That might happen. But yeah, what do you say?
Lockie Brook is playing 90 minutes.
Yes.
Like he's playing in that center attacking midfielder role. I was watching some Premier League highlights and they kept talking about like number nines. Number 9 is just as bad as number 10. Like he's a striker.
Yeah, you might just have to swallow that. It's pretty deep in the lexicon at this point,
Yeah, but again, I'm not deep in the lexicon. So I'm going to call it a striker. Lachlan Brooks starts as in a centre attacking midfield, and then when they bring the subs on, then he moves back to his wide position, and he's playing all 90 minutes. That's what I find crazy, because he's working bloody hard. He's chasing the ball every way. He's the second striker defensively alongside Sam Cosgrove, so he's doing a lot of hard work without the footy. He's having a massive impact with the footy, and he's playing the whole game. Like, okay, if Louis Verstraete's playing 90 minutes as a CDM and he's just controlling the game, pulling strings, getting turnovers, shifting the footy, that's all good. Lachlan Brook is chasing the ball all around the park, scoring amazing goals, helping others score amazing goals, and being the best player in the best team. That's crazy. And he's a new signing. So these signings that Auckland FC have made, shout out to Gerwood Reich. He's doing a good job. Not to be concerned with the Tairua Toru Reich from the ancient days, who are terrible people. But those Auckland FC signings are very, very nifty. I love what they've done in signing players. Obviously, we know Verstraete very well. We know Mai, we know Hall. We know all those dudes, but their signings for this season have impacted winning footy, and they've made the signings and they're still at the top of the league. That is tremendous.
Being able to replenish a winning team is such an important, because they didn't change much. And it'd be very tempting just to be like, we were so good with this team, we fell just short in the finals. Take two, let's go again with the same guys. But, other teams have had a year of scouting on all of those guys, and they have a better idea of what you're up against, to be able to not just sit on rest on your laurels there, but to replenish what was already a winning team by adding in some guys who, in some cases, make them better, in some cases just don't make them better or worse, but just change the picture a little bit. That is great coaching, that is great recruitment, that's great team management, and that's how you stay at the top year after year, is being able to stay ahead of the pack like that, making moves like bringing in Lockie Brook. And I don't really have a circumstantial evidence to say why this is, but the fact that it aligns very similarly, I feel like Lachlan Brook's revival, well, not revival, because this, he's only been at the club a couple of months, but his surge in form over the last 3 games probably has also contributed to, or it's at least aligned with Sam Cosgrove being a lot more effective in those games as well. I feel like they must be connected in some way, just having someone working in the way that he does, and not I think with Guillermo Mai playing there, it was a bit more about they weren't quite sure who was the one supposed to score the goals or play off the line or this. And Mai wants that role where he's deeper and sort of swiveling around and getting on the ball and trying to orchestrate stuff. But I mean, I don't know. There just wasn't a connection between him and Cosgrove. I think even though there's not Cosgrove and Brook are playing off each other a lot, they're not really doing that. But they have found form together at the same time, and that feels like they must that's what I mean. I don't have evidence to say how this is working, but it feels like it is somehow.
Wellington Phoenix, I think it's actually quite similar for both Phoenix teams, but slightly different. The reason I liked having Nadrine in that midfield, and maybe it's Paulo Retre, but then you have Mandrake, Rufa, Nagasawa, Nadrine, Armiento. I'm not going to put Eze into this because he's very fresh to the A-League. But suddenly the Phoenix team is more mature. Suddenly they're just far more solid than previous Phoenix teams have been. And the Mandrake Rufa combination, I think it's more of a trifecta, a trio. Mandrake, Rufa, and Nagasawa, because you've been consistent in highlighting that Nagasawa is one of, if not the best player for the Phoenix this season. But those three, obviously Armiento's always busy on the left, but your engine room, Mandrake, Rufa, and Nagasawa, that's your core. And you can have that core with maybe some more younger players around them. But if you got that core and then you add a couple more solid A-League players and you only have a few youngsters around them, I think that is a very good Wellington Phoenix team. And then you go to the Wellington Phoenix woman. Don't worry, we will get to Big Dog McCarron in a jiffy. But the Wellington Phoenix woman, obviously 7 goals, fantastic. Dominant display The tidal wave of goals came, fantastic. But the biggest thing I saw for the Wellington Phoenix women is how physical they are. Whether it's pushing the opposition off the ball, whether it's their players like Samba, she's not big, she's not physical, but there was a play where she was chasing back, so she's working hard, and all she did was step in front of the opposition player. Because she's a bit smaller, the opposition player just kind of shoved her out of the way. Samba took a breath, then she came back, stepped in front of her, won the ball again, and then she earned a foul, I think. And that's your like creative attacking player stepping in front of opposition players going backwards. But then the Wellington Phoenix women, they win a lot of ball. Just like, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's like for the Wellington Phoenix women players, it is a 30-70 possession opportunity. The ball is going to the opponent's feet, and the Wellington Phoenix defenders or players just get right up on them. They might step in front of them. They might put a foot between the legs. They might do a little shove, and they win the ball. 30% chance of winning the ball in my imaginary mathematical equation. They win the ball. They are far more physical than any other Wellington Phoenix women's team I've seen before. And that's a Bev Priestman coaching job. But Pia Vlock, another wizard-ess, maybe a witch, an attacking witch for the Wellington Phoenix woman. But she's massive. So she's going to be physical. Grace Jale, as you've highlighted in the newsletter, she's playing in the midfield. She's doing a fantastic job. She's massive. CJ Bott, what does she do? She plays rugby in the midfield. Good luck in winning those battles. Nunn on the right side of the field. She's ruthless. Like, she is she's going to dribble. She's the dribbler. She wants to get one-on-one and she wants to hop to the outside, but she'll chop you down for sure. And then you got Mackenzie Barry in the centre back. What's she going to do? Well, what she always does. She wins physical battles. I'm not sure who the right and left backs were, but
Nunn was on one side playing as a wing back, and Minaya Elliott was on the other side. Minaya Elliott as well. Like, saying all the things you're saying about Nunn, same about Elliott, except she's not a dribbler who beats players one-on-one, but she might be someone who just like puts the head down and barges through, like just getting those hit ups, one out hit ups type stuff. And there you go. She is like an absolute nugget of a player on the wing. Again,
but who were the defensive players?
Well, they've had the same back three in every game so far. That is Mackenzie Barry in the middle, Ellie Walker on the right, Marissa Vandermeer on the left. Walker and Barry are supremely physical, great tacklers, very strong. Vandermeer a little less of like an imposing player, but also one thing she's extremely good at is winning headers. Even though she's not the tallest, she's probably the shortest of those three players. She's fantastic at winning headers. We saw this a lot in her first, before she got injured, when she was first with the club. Was scoring goals. She scored a goal earlier this season as well. Again, from a set piece, like she's a target from corners. That is an element of physicality in the game, is what you do when the ball's up in the air, winning those battles. All three of the Phoenix defenders have that in them, and that has been a great defensive unit the whole way through. Like they're not conceding very many goals. They've been excellent at that stuff. It's just been a matter of putting the ball in the back of the net up the other end. And they have created chances, and they did put those away this time. And again, another point to the physicality aspect is a couple of those goals, particularly the Grace Jale ones, also came from set pieces. Again, like corner kicks specifically. It's like those are just jewels in like a nutshell there. Everyone's like under a blanket's distance from each other, and the ball's in the air or the ball's bobbling around between you. It is very like, those are really condensed physical battles, and the Phoenix were scoring, not just like winning those, but scoring goals from those situations.
You mentioned the defensive unit for the Phoenix woman, mainly talking about the three centre backs, but you got Vic Essen behind them, and you have CJ Bott in front of them. And in my non-number 9, non-number 10, non-number 6, non-number 8, footballing expertise. I always believe that defense starts from your strikers and your attacking players and how hard they work to get behind the ball. That's Sam Cosgrove is doing his job defensively. And for the Wellington Phoenix woman, everything I said about Samba tells that story. She is working hard defensively. Grace Jale's pushing people off the ball. Pia Vlock is pushing people off the ball. But then you get to that defensive core, and like the Phoenix men, it's Rufa in front of the defense. And then you've got good centre backs, but you've also got good goalkeeping. And this is the, I don't know, we're talking about the 10th seamers, 11th seamers, and how that might translate over to other sports. Goalkeeping is too tricky because you've only got one goalkeeper in a football team, whereas obviously every cricket team has at least 2 seamers, so then you can get to 10 quite easily. But New Zealand, men and women, we have goalkeepers. We got goalkeepers coming out of the Christmas tree. And Phoenix women, they have I kind of feel like Vic Essend's one of our best Football Ferns goalkeepers. I don't know if she is in that. I don't know if that is a fact based on Football Ferns selections.
Well, she's behind an elite, but
Right.
those two have been head and tails above everyone else for a couple of years now.
So that, I don't know, someone can tell me who is a better goalkeeper in the A-League than Vic Essen, right? Like that is
An elite, but
who's she playing for?
she's playing for Newcastle now. This
Right.
is having bounced back after a few years in England. So it took a little break. Now playing for Newcastle, been really good for them too.
Well,
The 4th New Zealand A-League team, the Newcastle Jets women.
Phoenix have only conceded 4 goals and the Newcastle Jets have conceded 9 goals. So I think Vic Essen is better than an elite, obviously. Yeah, but so the 2 best goalkeepers in the A-League, maybe, are New Zealanders, or 2 of the best. And Vic Essen is one of the best goalkeepers in the A-League. I don't know who the second goalkeeper is, but that's not super important to this discussion because then the other goalkeepers for the other A-League teams are now Kiwis. Michael Vowd, what did he do? He replaced Alex Paulson, and he is just as good as Alex Paulson. He doesn't have the short passing game that Alex Paulson has, but everything else Michael Vowd is doing is Alex Paulson level. And I feel that way when I watch Michael Vowd play soccer, football. And then you look at the ladder, and they are still one of the best defensive teams in the A-League, and they're still top of the ladder. So Michael Vowd, at the very least, he is doing a pretty good Alex Paulson impression, which would, like, based on what I saw from the docu-series about Auckland FC, that would probably piss Michael Vowd off that we're comparing him to Alex Paulson. But Michael Vowd's been awesome for Auckland FC. Then you go Wellington Phoenix, and I did get a bit of a Blackcaps sense about the Oluwayemi injury. Like, oh my God, Oluwayemi is injured. What are the Wellington Phoenix going to do? They're going to be without their goalkeeper for 6 weeks or whatever it is, and it's a major blow to the Wellington Phoenix. I don't think it's that big a deal, right? Like, you've got McCarron, but you've also got Albie Kelly-Heald. And based on what you've said in our newsletter and over the past few months, McCarron has, in a roundabout way, you got injuries, but then you got form, and you've got performances for the Phoenix reserves and all this stuff. McCarron has kind of overtaken Albie Kelly-Heald to be the backup to Oluwayemi, which put him in the position to play against the Central Coast Mariners. And I don't know, like Michael Ray, like Jacob Duffy, like any other player inserted into the Blackcaps group, McCarron was pretty good. Like, didn't have any faults or flaws in what McCarron was doing as a youngster playing in the A-League. And we are in a situation now where all 3 A-League teams from Aotearoa are going to have Kiwi goalkeepers, which I am fascinated to see how they perform moving forward, because Vic Esson, she is a cornerstone of an excellent Wellington Phoenix women's defensive unit. Michael Vowd, he is a cornerstone of an excellent Auckland FC defensive unit. Which, when I say defensive unit, I'm meaning the whole team because everyone defends, right? That's just critiquing myself. Now you've got McCarron, who in theory is better than LB Kelly Heald. He's going to get starting reps in the A-League, and it's going to be fascinating to see if the Wellington Phoenix can tick over positive results with a second string goalkeeper who is a very, very young Kiwi. And then I challenged myself, how many Kiwi goalkeepers can I name? And I only did it with the woman because I didn't write down Annalite's name, obviously, considering what we just talked about.
Okay, the New Zealand's #1 goalkeeper, but yes.
Well, the men's side we're talking here. Alex Paulson, Michael Vowd, Keith Sims, McCarron, Max Crocombe, LB Kelly Heald. 6. Who am I missing?
Ollie Sale?
Well, obviously I'm not. Yeah, well, he's not playing. Obviously, I'm going to forget him, but he's a professional goalkeeper.
Ollie Sale might be the Scott Kugelijn of New Zealand football in that case.
Easy on.
On field only, specifically. It's legal reasons. I just meant that because I forgot Scott Kugelijn before, and it was like, yeah, well, why would I remember him? He hasn't played for a while, and he's like no longer even in the question. Surprisingly, a few people still seem to think Ollie Sale has a good chance of making the World Cup squad, which I don't.
Do you know, that was a good point, but I was just thinking, because Scott Kugelijn does have the odd T20 gig, right? Like, I'm going to just do a quick
I assume so.
Little quick info check here, because he does have the odd T20 gig around the world, and it seems like that's the type of cricketer that would come to New Zealand to play T20 cricket, right?
I think you're right.
So Scott Kugelijn has been playing in the Nepalese Premier League.
Cool.
So he didn't play a whole lot of domestic cricket. He played Ford Trophy, and then again, casual contracts and all this stuff. An example of this is Scott Kugelijn, right? So maybe we shouldn't care so much. After the Ford Trophy, he went to play in the Nepalese T20 League, and then I imagine he'll come back and play the Super Smash.
2 shout-outs to Nepal in this podcast after the mention of Samba earlier.
Big Samba.
Yeah.
Scott Kugelijn is the type of T20 mercenary cricketer who would come to New Zealand to play in the imaginary T20 competition. That is the level of T20 cricketer who's coming here to play T20 cricket. Maybe
he's also going to come back and play anyway for Super Smash. So it's do you want that type of player to be a New Zealander, or do you want that type of player to be just like a 10th string Indian player, or
or maybe Ruben Trumpelman, Namibian international who was playing against Scott Kugelijn in his last game for the Nepalese T20 competition, right? So these are the caliber and types of cricketers who are these are just random T20 mercenaries who just have jobs playing T20 cricket, right? Shout out to them. That's the caliber of cricketer who would come to New Zealand to play in the glorious franchise T20 league. But go back to, so you the Ollie Sale, you're saying that surely he can't be selected for the All Whites ahead of Michael Vowd. That is impossible. I
don't think Michael Vowd should be selected ahead of Case Sims. But yeah, you're right. Even before you get to that, it's like you're going to pick the backup instead of the guy who's actually playing the games and playing really well for Auckland FC at the moment. I don't think that makes sense. The only reason that would happen, I think, is if Sale gets called up, because even then, like someone like Henry Gray, it's like he's not playing a lot of senior football at the moment, but he's such a big up-and-coming player. Yeah, like Zach Jones as well is another one in the lower leagues there in England, who's having a very good season for a team trying to get promoted from where they currently are.
So we got 9 goalkeepers from Aotearoa. Can we get to a nice round 10?
Who have well, let me get my long list of flying Kiwis out and see who I
But
stumble
if we've
upon.
just named nine goalkeepers, I am double downing on it being impossible, and I use that word strongly. Impossible for Ollie Sale to be in the All Whites squad. If we have nine goalkeepers and we're on the hunt for a number 10.
Maybe Joe Wallace, academy system at West Bromwich Albion. I mean, a couple of those guys, Sale would be ahead of them for sure. Like Wallace isn't playing senior football, Gray isn't playing senior football, but maybe might get like a development boost type thing. But if you're going to do that, like Kay Sims is only a couple years older and is playing, well, has been playing in the top flight in Sweden. I just felt like that was so underrated for a long time.
But you got
The
a
level that he's at.
Max Crocombe, Keith Sims, Michael Veld, Alex Paulson. Why would you need another goalkeeper?
You don't. I mean,
Exactly.
there's one too many already. That's the thing. And even in the football firm sense, where they've tried very hard to try over the Annalete's been unavailable for the last up until the most recent tour. She came back and played in one of the games against Australia. It was really good too. The game we got thrashed in, but that gave her more opportunities to show what she's capable of, even though she was getting stitched up by a defense, turning the ball over and allowing the Aussies to shoot while she's not in position. But yeah, like I say, very strong A-League season from her so far, including an assist. Like she got an assist to Charlotte Lancaster in the first round with just booting the ball forward and it bounced and she smacked it as it bounced and scored that way. Um, I mean, Eston and Lee clear out in front, but like Claudia Jenkins is the first choice starter for Adelaide United. She's born and raised Australian, but with Kiwi eligibility and switched over. Hasn't actually debuted for the Ferns yet, but has been in a couple squads. Don't really know why she wasn't getting picked ahead of Elena Santos in the most recent one, seeing as she has like the higher professional pedigree. But then Santos did get a game against Australia and looked really good there as well. So she's someone who's kind of come out of the blue, but has been playing quite well in college football in the States. So you never quite know. It's a bit of a black hole when people go and play there. Sometimes they come out of those situations really well-rounded, ready to go. Sometimes they just disappear. Um, but Brianna Edwards has been, and she's got a cap for the Football Ferns. She's a backup at Western Sydney this year, but she has played one game. And Amy Feinberg Daniele did get a game for the Phoenix when Verkessen was injured. So there's been 5 different Kiwi players, goalkeepers, who have started games in the A-League Women's this year, including 3 of them who are first choice starters. So that's pretty handy as well. And yeah, on the McCarran Kelly Hild thing, because Kelly Hild did this last year. You remember Oluwayemi had like a month out where he got injured a little bit deeper into the season. He got injured. Kelly Hild comes in. Oh no, how are we going to do this? The inexperienced backup is suddenly thrust into being a starter. Well, he did so well in his first few games that they just kept him as a starter even after Oluwayemi came back from injury. And then Kelly Hield busted his shoulder and had to have surgery and was out for like an extended period of time. So Oluwayemi got his job back. But when Kelly Hield got that chance last season, he took it well enough to keep an import player on the bench. Now Eamon McCarran is keeping LB Kelly Hield. Lucas Kelly Hield is starting in front of him in centre back, the twins. Now Eamon McCarran is keeping LB Kelly Hield out of that backup role on the bench, which I think some of that is still because of like building him back up after being out for a long time. But he played 5 National League games, so it's not like LB Kelly Hield is just this moment coming back. And Chiefy was asked about it afterwards, and he basically said, like, look, McCarran did so well during preseason while Kelly Hield was still injured. Because he also missed out on going to the under-20 World Cup, did Kelly Hield, because of that injury, because he wasn't quite fit enough. That was where Henry Gray was the starter and probably best goalkeeper there. Of course, he's best goalkeeper. He started all 3 games, but arguably one of the best players for New Zealand during that, except for one instance late in the game against Chile. But Joe Wallace was in that squad as well, and they also had a fella called Jose Casagrande. Big House, Casagrande. What was his first name? Yeah, Josie Casagrande from Bristol City Academy, who are completely out of the blue selection. I don't hadn't heard of him before he was named in that squad, but they found another one there. What was I saying about Kelly? Yeah, Eamon McCarron did get like he played in the second half against Wrexham in that friendly game. He got one appearance during the Australian Cup. So this wasn't his first team debut, it was his A-League debut, but not his first team debut because he did play very well. Kept a that was the win against Not Awaiting, so he kept a clean sheet there in an Aussie Cup game for the first team. And I think Albert Kelly healed from having watched. I'm mostly judging this on what I've seen from them, even just recently in the National League stuff, because McCarron played a few games there as well. I think Albert Kelly Hield is the better goalkeeper, but I also think McCarron is being rewarded for his efforts and his form while Kelly Hield was out, getting him to a point where the coach feels like, you know what, I mean, it would be unfair to drop you at this point. Now he's going to get a run of starts, and Kelly Hill's probably just going to come back into the bench because he is fit enough to do that. He has, like I say, he's played National League games over the last couple of months, so he's ready to go. He just happens to be stuck as the third choice goalkeeper at the moment, and that's like he does have some A-League experience. So if McCarron does look a little bit wonky, which he didn't on debut, but if that happens and maybe in a game where he has to actually face some shots because he didn't really have to make a save in that one, he did have to come out and claim a few high balls. And I thought that was pretty impressive how comfortable, assured he looked under those ones. He didn't look like he was sort of, shrinking in that goal frame. He looked like he was, shoulders back, confident, feels like he belongs there. That's all important to see, especially from a young player, especially from a goalkeeper. And yeah, now he's earned himself a little opportunity where he's going to get this window of games. He is he's a little bit too young, actually, for that under-20 World Cup squad. He's still only about 18, so he'll probably go to the next under-20 World Cup. Hasn't really got I think he was at the last under-17 World Cup, but he was a backup. Matt Ford was actually the starter, who's also in the Wellington Phoenix Academy, but did recently, has had a lot of injuries since then, which has allowed McCarron to get in front of him. And also Ford's just signed with, I think, the Fijian team in the Oceania Pro League, which he's young enough to go back to the Phoenix Academy after that. A lot of people seem to see these things and be like, oh, they've signed with the Pro League, therefore they're leaving the Phoenix. But it's like the Pro League finishes in like March, April or something. Very early days in the next domestic season. You just go back to your club after that. It's like you're not if you're still an under-20s player, you're not having to leave the Phoenix forever. He might just go back and rejoin the academy after he's had his stint in the thing. I don't know. Might be certainly different story about Lewis Partridge, who's 21, so he won't be able to go back to the Phoenix Academy. But Fergus Gillian also is signed with one of them. So there's a few Phoenix Academy players who've popped up at that thing. But yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how McCarron goes because he is going to have pressure from Albert Kelly Hield, who I think is a little bit more proven, a little bit more slightly older. Probably he's got that bigger frame. I would say a more highly regarded prospect coming up as well. Kelly Hield kind of had that reputation more so than McCarron has gotten, but McCarron's got the faith of the coach at the moment. And Chiefy has never been one to shy away from that type of stuff. He's not going to be like, oh, well, I liked this player for a backup, but I don't trust him to go and start. He's the type of coach who's like, well, if I trusted you to be a backup, I trusted you because you might be in this situation. So we're going to get a nice run of Eamon McCarron in the A-League team, and I'm looking forward to that because I want to see a bit more about him. I've only really seen him in National League games, and I like the look of him, but I haven't seen enough to be like, yeah, top tier prospect coming through. I want to learn a bit more about his game, And it will help that they have a fit and available Mandrake James in front of them because that was another thing I pointed out in the email is that where are we here? I wrote it down somewhere. They are just like miles better defensively when Mandrake is on the field. They are conceding 1.27 goals per 90 minutes, so per game, 1.27, 1.3 basically goals per game with Mandrake on the pitch. Without him on the pitch, that jumps up to 2.3. So an entire goal per game worse when they don't have him out there is pretty significant. And I think we saw over the last 2 weeks the difference between what that like we saw that expressed in their performances, where I don't even think there was a lot that was different between how they played against the Jets versus how they played against the Central Coast Mariners in terms of like with the ball attacking. It's just that their defensive line, which was so inexperienced in that game, without not just without Mandrake James, but also without Isaac Hughes, both of whom returned for this latest game. It just looked so fragile. Like it just getting picked off over the top all the time. Little bit of like the approach to the two different teams was different as well. So the Jets was a tougher matchup specifically for that Phoenix style with the high line. But yeah, they were getting picked apart by Newcastle in a way where against Central Coast that didn't happen, and that allowed them to come out early in the second half and pick them apart in a very similar way with a couple of sort of back-to-back goals, take control of the game. The same way in which they lost the previous game was how they won this game. So I think it's pretty safe to say that James and also Hughes, there's a big difference with them versus without them. Like, I don't think they quite have Blackcaps seamer depth in those centre back positions to be able to be just like next man up. Those are key crucial players for them. And when they are out there, they look better. And I mean, that's probably the strongest, like the closest to a top strength Phoenix side that we've seen this season. And it was one of, if not their best performances. Again, like not a coincidence that would be the case. It just goes to show how much those injuries have affected them to a couple of key players in particular. But yeah, maybe that's a turning point for them. Maybe. We'll see. Because we thought the Breakers had a turning point a few weeks ago and won 3 in a row, then lost 3 in a row and back where they were. So man, these things could swing around.
Good segue, but I'll pause the segue because
it doesn't need to be a segue.
Well, just let me finish. What you're saying about McCarron was exactly what I was thinking with Michael Ray. I've seen Michael Ray bowl a lot in domestic cricket. I've clipped a lot of his wickets. I've seen him take a lot of wickets. I've seen some good stats. I've seen some bad stats for Canterbury, for Otago, for New Zealand A. Never really thought he'd be a test seamer. And then he plays a test, and he's a test seamer. Now he's in an ODI squad. Now he's an international cricketer. And I haven't seen McCarron play football before. I hadn't seen Michael Val play football before. I haven't seen a few of these players play football before. Then I watch them play football. They're doing the job. And McCarron is 18 years old.
I think so, yeah.
And
he's definitely a teenager.
And he just, Seamer, the teenager. McCarron just did the job. And that's like, I think sometimes you get caught up in trying to forecast what might be possible. Like we're pretty solid at identifying talent and saying that Reece Murray is going to be really good at cricket, that Zach Folks is going to be really good at cricket, that there's another dude from Darfield like Zach Folks called Cameron Paul and he's going to be really good at cricket. That there's these footballers like Stipe Jukic and all these other dudes who are really good at football and they're going to be very good at football. And then there's just
Pia Vlock.
Like we've been talking about Pia. I was also thinking like, so Macy Fraser, she's got a bit of an issue with the Phoenix. She's not playing. Ella Jerez isn't playing. And I was thinking neither of them seem overly physical. Neither of them seem like they're willing and able to not just out-muscle players or get into a physical battle, but to do it at the A-League level. Because the A-League level, you're playing rugby, right? Like the referees don't really give a shit about bad tackles or like playing rugby in a soccer football environment. The A-League, it's not like the A-League level is the Premier League level or anything like that. It's the A-League level is brutally physical. And the Wellington Phoenix women are quite successful right now. Like they had a big win, but they've been a very good defensive team prior to this as well. And I kind of think that maybe some of these smaller, less physical, less strong players, Macy Fraser might have a bigger situation with mental health or training or whatever she's doing, like because it's the same situation she was having in America has come back to the Wellington Phoenix. Like it's exactly the same at two different clubs now. But I also see that the players who aren't the players who are playing for Wellington Phoenix women under Bev Priestman are physical, not just like big physical players, but they are willing and able to play physical A-League football. So it's just something I was thinking about for another player like Ella Jerez, who has been on the rise, that might have, she was right there with Pia Vlock, but she isn't playing like Pia Vlock is, and that may just be because the Phoenix women under Bev Priestman, they are prioritizing handy footballers, skillful footballers, good footballers who can do what Bev Priestman wants them to do, and that includes pushing people over, shoulder to shoulder, sprigs up, sprigs down, whatever kind of physical play you want, you got to be able to do it for Bev Priestman. So I do ponder that, and that's just made me forget my original point.
Well, I do think Fraser and Jerez are physical players. When Fraser was, had a breakout season with the Phoenix, she was their most effective tackler in midfield, especially when she was sort of like pressing out. But she's not very big. I think that's where it overlaps with what you're saying there. And Jerez is bigger than she looks, but is also still very young, like from 18 or something herself at this point. I think that's probably fair to say. It's like because I've seen her do that in National League. She gets around. She'll drop a shoulder. She'll work hard off the ball. Yeah, but it's like because CJ Block, Grace Jale in the midfield at the moment, it's like they do all the same things, but they're also just like Grace Jale is a foot taller, if not more, than Macy Fraser. Like it means more when she shoulders you versus when Macy Fraser shoulders you. So I don't think those players are lacking for the intensity there. It's just they just don't have the same frames.
But they're also young, so they're young with these slighter frame.
More so Jerez than Fraser, but the other aspect is like brittle. I think they both just had a lot of little niggly, ankle injuries and things like that. The kind of ones where maybe you hold back from a challenge because if your ankle is a little bit sore, or even like you don't hold back, but it's just you stick your foot in and it flares up again, or that kind of stuff. Where Fraser certainly has had a few niggling injuries, and Jerez, you don't really hear about it because she's not a first team regular, but I know she went to the under-19s Oceania thing with New Zealand recently and didn't play a single game. Was the only player in the squad who didn't get on the pitch, and she was there because I saw her during the celebrations, but she was there during the celebrations with like sneakers on, rather than boots and socks. So that tells you very likely that either she was sick or injured, and she sort of didn't play a lot for the reserves, whereas I thought she might. Did play one game. It was spectacular. Fraser did as well, actually. He played one game and was the best player on the pitch, but then that was the only game that she played for the reserves. Both of them scored brilliant goals in those appearances as well. So talent-wise, Fraser should be a first 11 player, and I think Jerez is on that like pushing for first team consideration kind of level. And she has been overlapped, not just by Pia Vlock, but also by Zoe Benson, also by arguably Grace Bartlett too, got a debut on the weekend, who's a slightly different position. Like they do overlap in that they will both play as attacking midfielders, but Bartlett also covers the wing back, and that's where we saw her play. And I think that's where her professional sort of pathway lies is as a right wing back, someone who's going to be fast but can also like play those 1-2s, get in behind, whips in good crosses. Saw a lot of that for the under-19s as well there. So that was cool to see Grace Bartlett getting that opportunity after I think she'd had 3 unused sub games in a row. Finally won a game by enough that they were able to get her out there for a debut. Second academy debutant as well, because Lily Brazendale played a little bit in one of the games earlier on in the season. And that does, seeing those players getting in there, that does make me think, well, where is Ella Jerez? But she might just be injured. I don't know. She has had this, what I'm saying, she's had a few niggling little issues recently, like that in and out of reserve team games. So we'll see. But yeah, if she wants to crack that team, she will have to do the stuff that Pia Vlock is doing, which is not just hitting the post every single game, sometimes multiple times, but also like shoving people over and winning the ball and barging through and pressing high and winning tackles and roughing people up and stuff like that, which Vlocker's doing that stuff on top of the flashy stuff, which is why she is starting games for the Phoenix.
Final word on the Breakers. You mentioned 3 losses in a row. How are you feeling?
I don't know. Well, what do you say about a team that continues to show that they're capable of being better than they are, and they're not putting together back-to-back performances to be capable of that? I was stunned watching the game on the other night where they lost away to Brisbane, where the commentator, it was Damon Lowry, the American fella, is talking about how this will be the upset of the season if the Brisbane Bullets win this game after sacking their coach. I'm like, they're playing the Breakers, bro. They're playing the Breakers in Queensland. Like, why would this even be an upset when they have a winning record against the Breakers with the coach who just got sacked? It's just you can't honestly be thinking that if you're watching these games and paying attention to these games. But yeah, no, sure enough, they did get defeated by Tyrell Harrison's Brisbane Bullets. Harrison had a blinder. Unfortunately, Tane Murray was out injured for that game, or else he might have done some things as well as he did when he played the Breakers earlier on in the season. It's just, again, we've been through a bit of a journey since we last had these, since we had some of these Breakers debriefs earlier on in the season when they were losing more regularly. But I can't help but feel we're still bumping up against that ceiling of Petteri Koppanen's coaching abilities, starting to hear a bit of that on those commentary tracks about like, well, why is this guy playing 10 different players in the first quarter? Why doesn't he leave his starters out there for 6, 7, 8 minutes and let them get, accustomed to the game and set the rhythm, and then you start easing in your subs? Why is he going so crazy with all his subs? Like, yeah, I was saying that in game 1. I was saying that last season. He's been doing this all along, and I don't know that helps your team win if you're just making constant substitutions, especially when we know the starters are the guys that they rely on the most. These 3 games that they've lost in a row, like the most recent one, that Bullets defeat, they had Rob Baker foul out with single-figure scoring. They had Kareem Lopez foul out with single-figure scoring. I think he only scored 1 point. He didn't even make a field goal. They don't have the depth to just rely on Parker Jackson Cartwright to do everything. Even Isaiah Brockington had an all right game there. Like, they need, it's Sam Meninga too, didn't score in double figures. So he's on par with those import guys. He didn't have a very good game. They need at least 3 of those guys to fire to win a game. And if that doesn't happen, they lose. And I don't feel like those rotations are working in the way that they could. I don't feel like this team has found consistency certainly they haven't found any consistency. And it's one thing if you can see a team is clearly worse than the teams they're losing to, but they're losing to teams that they should be beating. And whilst within that showing that they're capable of, like, it's just, they're clearly a better team than their record suggests, but like they're not able to reach their capacities. And yeah, I'm struggling not to view that as a coaching inadequacy, especially since that was already the lens we were looking at this earlier on. It's like, now they've gotten better, but maybe the thing that's holding them back is the same thing they were struggling with before.
Yeah, I was questioning my hot take radar recently because, Sam Cosgrove is doing his job, and the Breakers were winning games, so maybe Koppanen's an all right coach. So I was questioning my hot take radar, but we keep tinkering, we keep turning the dial. Congratulations to the Breakers. They are top of the table for the Ignite Cup, 3-0 there, for whatever that means. Shout out to the Breakers and shout out to the NBL for a weird competition. Shout out to you for doing your best. Shout out for you to being here with us on Christmas Eve. We'll keep drip feeding the Aotearoa sports stuff over the festive period, but do your best, have a good time, be nice to each other. Kia kaha, stay beautiful, church.